Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing all of the books that I read during the month of December. So I'll be going through a brief synopsis for each book, what I rated each book, the formats that I read each book in, and who I would recommend each of these books to. As always, I'm going to first give you a brief overview of what my reading looked like last month. So I ended up reading a total of 14 books and my average Storygraph rating was 4.59 stars. Overall, I really enjoyed everything that I read during the month of December and I'm really excited to share everything with you. The first book that I read this month was Lovelight Farms and I read this on Kindle Unlimited. This book follows Stella and Luca. Stella is the owner of a Christmas tree farm, but this business is in a little bit of financial trouble. So Stella decides to enter a social media contest to try to win some prize money so that she can use that money for the farm. This social media contest is being run by a famous influencer named Evelyn, and there is a $100,000 cash prize if Evelyn likes Stella's farm the best out of all of the other businesses who have entered this contest. Stella desperately wants to win, so she does a little bit of research on some of the past winners of this contest, and she comes to realize that Evelyn really likes it when there's a romantic love story behind a business. Because of this, Stella lies on her application and claims that she has a boyfriend and that she owns her Christmas tree farm with that boyfriend. But in reality, Stella does not have a boyfriend. Stella wasn't even sure if her business would get chosen as one of the contenders for this contest, but sure enough, it gets chosen and Stella needs to quickly find someone to pretend to be her boyfriend. So she goes to her best friend, Luca, for help with this. Luca is a data analyst and he's very organized and logical, whereas Stella is a lot more easygoing, and in my opinion, their personalities go really well together. Luca and Stella have literally been friends for around a decade, and they have helped each other get through some really tough things. So they have a really deep understanding of each other, and I think that is what makes this friends to lovers romance work really well. Luca is literally the perfect boyfriend, and he always knows exactly what Stella needs, and not only that, but he does chores and errands for her on a regular basis. I rated this book 5 stars and it is actually my favorite book of 2022, so I'm really happy that I read it. It had incredible grief representation in it and it is the perfect romance for me, so I highly recommend it to anyone who loves a good contemporary friends to lovers romance. It was so wholesome and I really think that everyone should read it. After that, I read the next book in the Lovelight series, which is In the Weeds, and this is also on Kindle Unlimited. This book follows Evelyn and Beckett. So Evelyn is the influencer who we got to meet in the first book, and Beckett is a farmer on Stella's Christmas tree farm. The two of them had a one-night stand a really long time ago, and during the events of the first book in the series, they essentially try to ignore each other because they feel really awkward about the fact that they had a one-night stand and that they didn't keep in touch afterwards, even though they both secretly wanted to. Beckett doesn't like socializing in general, so he is especially eager to stay away from Evelyn. However, in this book, Evelyn comes back to Lovelight Farms because she is getting really tired of doing meaningless brand deals and brand trips for companies, and she wants to rediscover the love for travel that made her want to become a travel influencer in the first place. When she comes back, their romance heats up again, and overall, it is an absolutely delightful Grumpy Sunshine story. I rated this book 5 stars, and it had such amazing representation for panic disorders and other mental illnesses. It was also such an incredible opposites attract story, and I really think you should carry on with the series if you liked the first book. Next, I read the third book in the Lovelight series, which is Mixed Signals, and again, this is on Kindle Unlimited. This one follows Layla and Caleb. So Layla is the owner of a bakery within Lovelight Farms, and Caleb used to be a police officer in the last 2 books, but now he is a high school Spanish teacher. Layla and Caleb have both had really bad luck with dating in the past, and one day they strike up a deal to try to remedy this. Essentially, they are both going to go on dates with each other, and at the end of each date, they are going to give each other feedback on things that went well and things that could be improved so that they can work on improving their dating skills. Caleb has had a crush on Layla for a really long time, which we found out in the first book, I believe, and it's pretty obvious that they are not going to be able to keep their feelings out of this, so their relationship gets more and more serious as the book goes on. I rated this book 4.5 stars. I love B.K. Borison's writing, and I think her relationship development is impeccable, but I just didn't connect with the story as much as I connected with the first two books in the series. I still think it's an incredible book though, and it is definitely worth picking up. Next, I read Consider Me on Kindle Unlimited. This book follows Carter and Olivia. So Carter is a professional hockey player for the NHL, and Olivia is a high school PE teacher. Carter has always been a player, but one day he meets Olivia at a party and he immediately falls for her. He wants to show Olivia that she can rely on him, but unfortunately she has a really hard time believing this because the media has publicized a lot of Carter's player ways. However, as Olivia and Carter start hanging out more and more, Olivia starts to realize that there is a lot more to him than what the media shows, and they both fall for each other. I rated this book 4 stars, and I really loved the found family trope in this book. Everyone's dialogue was also really hilarious, and it was pretty solid, but honestly, it just didn't feel that special to me, and it also got a little bit cheesy at times. I still think it's a solid sports romance though, so definitely give this a try if you like sports romances, especially hockey romances. After that, I read The Risk on Kindle Unlimited. This book follows Lana and Logan. Lana is a criminal who is trying to get revenge on some people who tortured her in the past. I don't know if I can say this word on YouTube, but I will write on the screen what happened to Lana, and please search up trigger warnings if you do choose to pick up this book. Anyway, Logan, on the other hand, is an FBI agent who is investigating the mysterious deaths of some of the people who Lana has killed in the past. The two of them meet one day, and Lana lies about her past so that she can be with him, and Logan has no idea that the killer he's trying to find is literally under his nose. Lana is very good at what she does, and she believes that none of the murders can be traced back to her. This is a very dark romance, and it reads like a thriller, which is honestly incredible. I rated this book 4.25 stars because it's so original and unlike anything else that I've ever read. It's definitely not for everyone, but I've heard amazing things from other people about the rest of the series, so if you're into super dark and twisted books, definitely give this one a try. Then I read Tutoring the Player on my Kindle. This book follows Jordan and Daisy. Jordan is a hockey player in college, and Daisy is a college student who knows absolutely nothing about hockey. One day, Jordan and Daisy are teamed up to do a physics lab together along with one of Jordan's other teammates, and Daisy has a really huge crush on said teammate. Jordan notices that Daisy has a really huge crush on his friend, and he tells her to go for it, but as he gets to know Daisy, he starts having feelings for her, so in order to stop her from asking out his friend, he pretends that he needs a tutor for physics and statistics, and he spends even more time with her. I rated this book 3 stars because honestly, it wasn't very well written. The character development was non-existent, and it read like a Wattpad book, but not in a good way. I think there are many other college sports romances out there that do a better job with the things that this book was trying to do. I especially recommend the Off-Campus series, which is also a hockey romance series. So yeah, overall, I would probably skip this one. Next, I reread The Lightning Thief in paperback while listening to the audiobook at the same time. This book is the first book in the Percy Jackson series, and it was literally my childhood, so I'm really glad that I got to revisit this. In this book, Percy realizes that he is a demigod, which means that one of his parents is a Greek god. Because of this, he is in danger, and he is forced to go to Camp Half-Blood, which is a camp for demigods. While he's there, he receives a quest that he has to go on in order to prevent the next world war, and of course we get to meet some other incredible characters along the way, like Grover and Annabeth. Overall, this is such a delight, and I rated it 5 stars. Rick Riordan definitely writes the best middle grade fantasies in my opinion, so I highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet and you're really into middle grade fantasies. The next book is also a reread, and it is Milk and Honey. I read this on Kindle Unlimited, and this is a poetry book. It deals with topics like mental health and sexual assault, and I love to revisit this whenever I feel a little bit lost in life. It really helps put things in perspective for me, and I think everyone can learn something from this. I rated this 5 stars because it really resonated with me, and if you're into modern poetry, I highly recommend this. Then I reread The Sun in Her Flowers, also on Kindle Unlimited. Again, just like Milk and Honey, I rated this 5 stars and I think it's incredible. After that, I read a bunch of webtoons. So the first one is Lore Olympus. I've talked about this before, but a bunch of new episodes were released, so I got all caught up. By the way, this counts as 2 books on Storygraph in case anyone is keeping track. But anyway, I will link the video where I talk about Lore Olympus in the description if you want to know more about it. I rated this 5 stars and I definitely recommend it if you're into webcomics. The character development and relationship development is amazing, and I love books with Greek mythology in them. Next, I also caught up on Everything is Fine on Webtoon. This is a really interesting webcomic because the art style is just adorable, but the actual content is a horror dystopia, so I think you should go into this one with no context. So I'm not going to say too much about it, but I did rate it 4.25 stars. It was an incredible dystopia, but I just didn't like it as much as some of the other dystopias that I've read before. I also read Brass and Sass on Webtoon. This webcomic follows a high schooler named Camilla as she joins the band program at her school and starts learning how to play a new instrument. In the process, she makes incredible new friends and falls in love with Victor, who is a very grumpy and laser-focused band student, which draws quite a contrast to her own bubbly and easygoing personality. I adored the thorough character development that the author created for literally every single character that was introduced, and I love how there was no cattiness between any of the characters. I rated this 5 stars just for the character development, and if you like character-based stories, I really think this is one of the best ones out there. Then I read Reunion on Webtoon. This story follows Ria and Shiro. Ria has just moved back to LA because she wants to be independent and get her life together. Things are not going as planned though, and she's pretty miserable until she bumps into Shiro, who was one of her best friends while she was growing up. Shiro is extremely mysterious and he seems to have a really dark secret, which Ria is wary of as they start spending time together and falling for each other. This is actually an incomplete webtoon, and there's going to be a new story coming out in the future that wraps up this storyline and introduces some new ones, but since it was incomplete and I didn't get a super satisfying conclusion yet, I just rated this 4.25 stars. The plot was so gripping and I was on the edge of my seat as we started to get little reveals of Shiro's secret, and we also got to see how supportive Ria was when she learned about Shiro's secret, which was amazing to see. I also thought all the side characters added a lot to the story, and I think this is a great webcomic if you're okay with reading incomplete work. So that is it for everything that I read during December. I didn't have school for most of December, so I was able to read a lot more than I normally would have been able to, but going forward, I'm excited to keep reading whenever I can. If you've gotten to this point, comment which of these books, if any, you would like to read, and I will definitely respond. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.